Hey friends, I'm doing an indoor video this time. Right now it is nighttime, there's a big storm coming in. So I thought I would show you this pretty box. It's one of those ones that's got a magnetic clip on it. I think it was used as a gift box. And for me, this is where I keep my seed collection. That says coriander. Yes, it's Bob's Red Mill, but that's where it used to be. I like to reuse things. There's cucumber seeds from a couple of years ago. Oh, gosh, 3 years ago now. Mustard seeds that I have never, I think, bothered to use. Anyway, this is what I'm working with right now. These are my seed packets. I planted those last year, and they came up really nicely. They grew very tall. I should have planted them closer together because they grew tall and then fell over. They did bloom, pretty little white flowers, and then they did produce seeds, which I did not collect any of. Basil, this is what I've got in a pot right now that's outside getting rained on, and I'll have to bring it back in soon when the weather starts to get cold again. Yes, I have 2 packets. This was the watermelon that I planted 2 years ago and last year. It grew. It did pretty well as far as vine goes. It just spread out. But the problem was that by the time I would find the watermelons, by the time I found watermelons last year, they were already split. They had overgrown and were split. And the year before that, I tried to grow this in a pot, and the watermelon was the size of a baseball. The only one that I did get. I'm trying this again this year. I planted these last year, got very weak, small vines, just a couple of leaves, and then they died back. So I did not get any. I'm hoping they'll work this year. Now this was a present from a friend of mine who is also a gardener. This is indigo. This is like the color blue jeans comes from. This is the real thing. The plant that produces the dye. What's in here? I don't know what those are. That had ground cherry. I had found a wild ground cherry and saved some of the seeds, and hopefully it will do. I grew these last year. They did grow really nicely. The vines did, and I had lots of flowers and almost no fruit. I had 2 squash, which I used as decorations. They were just beautiful, and I loved them. I might try them again this year. I ate a lot of squash blossoms off of those, probably a couple dozen. Peas. Peas. I love peas. You don't know how fast peas sprout, man. I'll show you in just a minute. This did really, really well last year. I had lots of them come up nicely. I planted a bunch. The funny thing is about half of them got to be maybe an inch tall. And then the others were like taller than me. Like they grew an inch, maybe 2 inches, little tiny red flower. I have no idea. They all got watered the same. The soil is pretty much the same. Some of them grew enormous, and some of them hardly grew at all. I took some, the friend who gave me the indigo seeds, I took some of those seed heads to her also because it is used as a dye, and she's been doing lots of dyeing. Okay, yes, that was my mother's easel. This is my garden table. A friend of mine gave me a amaryllis bulb. I did not take it out of the bag until a couple of days ago when I realized it had not only sprouted but was blooming. So about 4 or 5 days ago I got it into the earth. Now some of you might have seen my video on the little terrarium, teapot terrarium I put together. That's a wild violet that I got just out of the ground. And it's actually doing kind of nicely. It did outgrow the pot, of course, so I've got the lid where it can come out. Here are the squash that I'm trying again this year. these are the seeds from the squash that I harvested, I think. You know what? I hope so. Marigold. I have propagated these marigolds for probably coming up on 15 years now. They would just self-seed. They would survive the winter on the ground, which I didn't know could happen. In where I grew up in Indiana, that did not happen. But here in Tennessee, enough of them fall in places that stay warm enough that they survive. This is a sort of rose hip that my friend who does the dyeing also gave me. And I put one into a pot to see if I can get it to grow. All right, so squash. There's my little label. Now these are from about 4 or 5 days ago. No signs yet. Here's the indigo pots. I put them next to the window. No sign of life yet. Marigolds. No sprouts yet. Sunflowers. Look at that. That little green spot is a sunflower sprout. Marigold. So this is where I've planted that rose hip. I don't know if roses will grow that way. There's the loofah. The loofah sponge. What is that? Oh, that's also loofah. And then peas. Peas, look! Peas are already coming up. And then here's the ground cherry and another ground cherry. And I have no idea if they will sprout or not. If they're anything like tomatoes, which they're distantly related to, well, maybe not quite so distantly, it'll probably be a few weeks. Oh, and cucumber. I forgot cucumber. I got these 4 right here, cucumbers. So yet another video featuring my pointer finger. So there we have it. Amaryllis, teapot, terrarium, indigo, peas, ground cherries, marigolds, cucumbers, loofah, maybe a rose, sunflowers. I'm excited the sunflowers are doing, and then squash. And oh, I also have over here, there's I brought this in. I've had this out for about a week. This because we've had mild weather lately. That's my aloe vera with a dandelion. Volunteer. I found these on the sidewalk where they had broken off of the mother plant that was in the pot and the window, a window, you know, where they have that little pot next to the window that's the shape of, anyway, you know what I mean. And then, so it's rooting, you can see. And I forget what that's called, but Purple Heart maybe. And then this was a little on sale at Barnes & Noble. Yes, the bookstore. Little tiny kit. That's part of the label there. To grow daisies. And they've all sprouted. The label said, "Thank you, daisies." And I don't know what that means. But they've all sprouted, and I'm just tickled by that. So we'll see how they do. And you can see out there, ooh, that's my reflection in the window. You can see out there is my basil and a pepper. Those pots used to be in here. And they'll come back in a couple of days when the temperature starts to drop. All right, so that's what's going on here. My indoor starts very small. All right, so that's what's going on. And thank you for joining me. Be well.